So in this session I'm going to show you how to open a raw image and edit it. So this is the screen when you first open Photoshop. So to open the image, you click on open, and these are raw files. Most of these are raw files. So now I'm just going to open this one. I'm just going to double click it. I will put it in the resources so you can download it and you can edit this image the same time as I'm doing it. So this is the Camera Raw editing software, and it shows you that this image was taken with my old Canon 700D, and tells you the number of the image there. And on the right hand side here you can see I used ISO 100 and which lens I used, and the aperture, and what was the speed of the image. You can either use the profile as camera standard, or you could change it to one of the other ones. I'm just going to use camera standard for now. The white balance, you can leave it as shot, or you can change it to one of the other ones that are on here. I'd already adjusted the white balance in camera, so I don't want to change that at the moment. You can change the temperature of the image and the tint of the image here, but the first thing you need to do really is to increase the exposure, because you can see this image is a bit too dark. So I just need to click on the exposure and then slide it along until I'm happy with how it looks. I think about there. And then you can increase the contrast, which makes it a bit sharper. I'm going to drop the highlights down so these clouds will pop a bit more. I'm going to increase the shadows, brighten it up. I'm going to drop the whites down a bit as well for the clouds and make it a bit, I think there's probably about 8, because it's so dark I'm having to increase the blacks and normally have to decrease them. Texture, increase the texture, increase the clarity, and then you can increase the vibrance. If you go too far it doesn't look right, so you have to be careful with that. And the saturation, if you go too far as well, it can just look so wrong. So usually I don't touch the saturation button. Vibrance, I might have gone a bit too far there, so I think I'll leave it about there. Now the curve, you can either adjust the curve like moving, you can pull this down or push it up and it'll change the image. What I tend to do is use the sliders. I find this easier. So you can either increase or decrease the highlights. You can lighten it up a bit more, darken it a little bit. And you can brighten it by sliding the dark one across. And shadows, you can increase or decrease the shadows. I'm going to decrease them a bit. Detail, you can sharpen it a little bit, sharpen the image. And if you've used a high ISO, you might need to reduce the noise in the image. The noise is like the grainy look. And then if you do need to change the noise, you can slide this slider along. But because I've used ISO 100, I haven't got any noise in the image. The color mixer, you can change some of the colors in the image. So if I wanted the sky a bit bluer, I could just slide this along, and I can darken the yellows or increase the yellows. I can darken the greens, or you can change the shade of the greens just by sliding this along a little bit. And you can make the ground a bit more orange by sliding this. So I think I'll leave that there. Color grading as well, you can change the mid-tones, like if you wanted to be more green or blue or pink or red. So I normally don't change these very much, but that's the options there if you want to. And then optics, you can remove the chromatic aberration of your lens and correct it with the profile corrections here. Geometry, you can change the vertical, horizontal, and you can rotate it. So for example, if I wanted to do that or that, I'm just going to put that back to here, but I don't need to change any of that at the moment. You might want to have a bit play with that. The effects, you can add a vignette here by, if you go that way you'll get a white one, if you go the other way you'll get a dark one. I'm not going to do that at the moment. And then you can change some of the colours in here by calibrating them. So when you're happy with the way your image is looking, if you're happy with it, I'm just going to go back to the colour mixer. I'm just going to just change that blue a bit more. You've also got these little icons at the side here, so that's the crop. So if I wanted to crop it, I can just slide this in or out, or you could crop it this way like that. And then you've got this, it's a spot removal. I normally do this after I've been in camera raw, but you can use this if you want to remove like a little spot. You just click on it and it removes it. And this is the adjustment brush. So the adjustment brush you can use to highlight certain areas, or you can increase the contrast, or you can use any of these and just do selective areas. So for example, if I wanted to say darken part of those tree branches, I would just decrease the exposure a little bit, and then I would just paint on the tree branches like that. And you could maybe darken the foreground a little bit like that, or you could do all of it if you wanted to, like that. Or and then if you just increase the exposure, you can see where I've highlighted the areas. Because you've already set the adjustment brush, you can also increase the texture in those areas as well, the clarity, and you can dehaze it in those particular areas as well, or you can decrease the shadows or increase the shadows just in the areas where you've painted. If you wanted to increase the exposure in certain parts of the image after you've used, see that little dot there, that's the first adjustment brush. You can add a second one by clicking that, and now you've got a second one. Reset, local correction settings. So I've reset them all. So this time I'm going to have it, the exposure increased, and so I'm just going to increase the exposure on, say, the house, on the grass, some parts of the grass, some parts of the foreground. So you can just choose, and then if you want to do a different one, you could add another one, but don't forget to reset the correction set, the local correction settings first. This is a gradient, so you've got like a gradient filter. So if we go on here, reset again, and then so if you wanted to have a gradient filter coming down like that, and then you could decrease the exposure, and it'll decrease the exposure from the top to the bottom, or you can increase the exposure from the top to the bottom like that. And this is a radial filter, so you can go outwards like that, and then you can just sort of change the filter from the center outwards. And this is the red eye reduction, but there's no people in this image. And then we've got, you can take snapshots, and this is certain presets here, and then you can save it here as well. So when you think you're happy with your image, then you can open it. So once you've opened it, you can then do further edits. For example, I don't like this stick here, so you can go into the healing brush. So if I right click there, spot healing brush tool, I'm going to click on that, and can you see how it's little cross hairs? I can increase that size of the brush by clicking on the square brackets on the keyboard, and then just by painting over that, it disappears like magic. So if you wanted to, there could be some other parts that you might want to get rid of just by doing that, and what it does is it looks at the area around it and fills in the gap, so it's similar to the others. But sometimes it makes it copy too much like another part of the image, so you have to mix it up a bit in that case. So I'm going to just remove that, whenever that was. And you can see it's not level, so I need to crop this. So in the next session, I'm going to show you how to crop an image. So until the next one, bye for now.